Hello, my name is Dean Cutler with Construction Ready. Today I'm going to demonstrate a simple, easy project for you to do to help enhance your students' skills with reading a ruler and adding fractions. Today we're going to build this project using simple PVC pipe and fittings. The items you'll need is a section of 1/2-inch PVC pipe. You'll need a PVC ratchet cutter, 2 rulers, some 1/2-inch PVC elbows, 1/2-inch PVC tees, a pencil, and of course, let's not forget our safety glasses. To complete this project, you'll need a worksheet like so. A link to the worksheets is provided below. This is the finished product. When the student starts this, they will determine the length of each piece of pipe to be cut. As they determine the length of pipe A, they will write the answer here. Pipe A coincides with piece here. Pipe B goes here. Once they've determined the length of all pipes, they will combine those lengths and have a total length of pipe here. Once they have the total length of the pipe, you will provide them with a piece of pipe that same length. At this point, I'm going to demonstrate how to determine the length of pipe H. So using my rulers, notice I have one ruler set up properly and the other ruler is reversed. I will take one elbow, line up the back of the elbow on the beginning of the ruler, which signifies 0. The size of this dimension is 8 inches, so the back of this elbow lands on 8. I take the second ruler and measure between the fittings. The dimension it shows is 4 1/2 inches. Next, we need to determine the length of this piece of pipe. As we know, 4 1/2 inches is not the dimension because the pipe must go into the elbow. Using another piece of pipe, we will insert this into the elbow as far as it will go, mark. Using our ruler, we determine that the pipe goes into the fitting 3/4 of an inch. Setting this back up so that the pipe goes in this fitting 3/4 of an inch. It goes into this fitting 3/4 of an inch. If we combine those, 3/4 of an inch plus 3/4 of an inch is 1 1/2 inches. We add the 1 1/2 to the 4 1/2 inches, which gives us 6 inches. Therefore, pipe H would be 6 inches. The student would then write 6 inches on line H. Next, we're going to determine the length of pipe A, B, and D simultaneously. So leaving it set up like we previously had for side H, we're going to introduce a T. The T goes perfectly centered on this side. So we put the center of the T on 4 inches, and we measure between the two fittings, and it shows us 1 inch. Therefore, 1 inch plus the 1 1/2 for the 3/4 inch here and the 3/4 inch right here will give us 2 1/2 inches. Therefore, pipe A is 2 1/2 inches, pipe B is 2 1/2 inches, and pipe D is 2 1/2 inches. Now we're going to set it up for side F, which is 9 inches. We slide this elbow down to the back of the elbow is at 9. We bring this ruler over, and it shows 5 1/2 inches. So 5 1/2 inches plus 3/4 inch plus 3/4 inch will give us 7 inches. For pipe C, G, and E, we're going to once again introduce the T at the center. Half of 9 would be 4 1/2 inches. Therefore, we set the center of the T at 4 1/2 inches. We measure here, and we have 1 1/2 inches. So 1 1/2 inches plus 3/4 plus 3/4 is 3 inches. So pipe C, G, and E would be 3 inches. Next step, the students would add all the dimensions together and come up with one total length. By adding these together, the student would come up with a total length of 29 1/2 inches. The next step would be for the students to begin cutting the pipe. Using a piece of pipe and the ruler, the student will mark the length of pipe and cut each one. So the first one for A is 2 1/2 inches. The student will take and mark pipe 2 1/2 inches using the ratchet cutter. Once the student has cut the pipe, they need to label each pipe. So this one is A. You may also have the student write the actual length on the pipe at 2 1/2 inches, like so. A couple of alternate options that you have You may want to change these dimensions, therefore each student has their own custom project to build. For those of you that aren't comfortable with the student using the ratchet cutter, you may choose to keep these dimensions the same, have the pipes pre-cut, and the student will request those once they finish determining the lengths.